What's going on, everybody? It's episode 24 of the Game Room Podcast. I'm your host, Rome, alongside my co-host, Dev.
Hey, what's up?
And we got producer Jeff on the ones and twos. Jeff, how you doing tonight?
Doing excellent. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Well, we have a big show tonight. Going to be reviewing Octopath Traveler 2, talking about the CMA blocking the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition. Going to be talking about Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the PC port issues, some information on Game Pass, AEW Fight Forever, PSVR 2. Let's get right into it.
Show, it sounds like.
We have a big show. It's funny because in terms of the amount of headlines, in terms of separate things, not a lot, but the weight of the
Big
headlines.
stories.
See a lot of big stories. We'll start off with a smaller story though.
Okay.
So a new AAA studio is being formed called Anchor Point Studios, focusing on action-adventure games that push the boundaries of entertainment. The team is helmed by veterans from Remedy, Sucker Punch, and more who worked on games like Ghost of Tsushima, Red Dead Redemption 2, and others. So this is a very exciting thing for me. I mean, obviously, I love action-adventure. It's my favorite genre. And then you just look at the people, Remedy, Alan Wake, Control, Sucker Punch,
That's
Ghost of Tsushima.
very exciting. Whatever they put out, I'm excited for already.
It's a cool name too. I like Anchor Point. It sounds cool.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this. Not a big headline here, but something to get excited about for the future. Number 2 in the headlines. Let's talk about PSVR 2, Devroro. So last week, PlayStation tweeted out, it said PSVR 2 will soon be in stock at local retailers, in addition to PlayStation's direct website. Check your local retailer for availability. Now, they didn't drop a release date for this. And I thought it was kind of weird. I was like, it's kind of weird for you to announce that a product that's already out is coming to retailers, but you don't have a date ready. However, today, they announced that it is coming out on a day where nothing else is going on. It's coming out on May 12th. There's nothing else going on May 12th.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody is very excited to go to their local GameStop, specifically to get PSVR 2. I'm sure there's going to be no other reason why anybody would be at any game stores or any type of retailers for video game related needs that day.
Yeah.
Why? Why would they do this to themselves? Like, it's a running joke at this point where you talk about Sony and you talk about how they just don't seem to want to get behind their own hardware outside of the console space.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is exactly what we talk about.
The one thing I'll give them for a saving grace is that it is separate. It's not a game. It's not a big game coming.
Right, but it's a $600 console.
Yeah, but I think people are. If you've been waiting to get one and you couldn't get one and you had the money, now you go to GameStop and get it.
I get that.
You said yourself, you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't get it ordered. If you bought it, you would get it at a store.
Absolutely, but at the same time, it's like, I'm also not buying anything else on the day that The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom comes out.
And people are also, if you're fortunate enough to have all 3 systems. If someone only has a PlayStation, maybe we'll just have to wait in line with all the Zelda people. But
can you imagine? Everyone's like, I'm so excited for Zelda. You're just like, I'm there for PS2 too.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, it's.
I think it finally got it into retail stores. I think that's finally,
Yeah.
It's a little weird that it wasn't originally, but we'll see.
Perhaps. I still think it's a baffling decision. I think it's gonna really backfire on them. Continue to backfire on them, but I guess we'll see. Next up, we got some information about the Republic of Gamers ally, Asus. They confirmed their release date and their specs.
I'm glad you're talking about this.
So they're coming out on May 11th. They're promising that the price point will be below $1,000. What do you want? Let's talk about it.
The reason I'm glad you brought this up is because I think I'm going to get this.
Really?
The reason I didn't get Steam Deck is because it runs on Linux and it's difficult to get Game Pass. Game Pass was a big seller for me.
Mm-hmm.
This runs on Windows. And it plays everything.
Really? So it plays Game Pass?
Yeah. It plays everything. It plays everything with no issues. So it's why not get it? So this, I've been watching this very closely. I've been reading the positives and the negatives of it. One of the negatives is it gets really hot. Other than that, it runs well. There's a leak price point. I think it was $599, which is And I told you I've been really getting into handheld gaming. That just seems like more my speed.
Right.
So, yeah.
Not like just the fact that you can take it and go.
Yeah, take it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna get it. I don't think I'll get it at launch, but
Mhm.
it's something that's gonna be in my shopping cart for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people I'm sure are going to be really excited for this. Like you said, the Game Pass thing is huge. Runs off Windows, not Linux. So this is going to kind of segue right into our next topic, which I think is going to be a really good discussion point. And I specifically kind of led into it with that for a reason. So Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Let's talk about PC ports, Dev. So this game has been reviewed phenomenally by everybody who's played it on console. I've heard no bad things. I know that they did something to a few little patches, but generally speaking, the console versions, unless I'm mistaken, I've heard next to nothing about them negatively.
Yeah.
And then we go to the PC port, and it is just so as of let's see, as of a couple days ago, it was sitting on Steam with a mostly negative rating with only 31%. 31% of 1,200 users recommending it. The game is extremely fun, but performs terribly, said Steam user Dr. Taco Chocolate. Just people just saying they're having issues with it. The concerning comments on the performance PC are true, says another player, Delicious P3706. Other users reporting crashes alongside graphical issues and an unexpected error that saw the player bypass story elements without seeing them, forcing them to either continue in a broken game state or load a previous save and hope it worked a second time around. So this is a big reason for me why I don't think I'll ever get into the PC sphere in terms of in a serious capacity. I may play games that are strictly made for PC, but I don't know how you can sit there and say you're willing to spend $1,000 when you know that these developers are not prioritizing PC ports. Because it's a lot of people, like even Jeff. So Jeff texted me today, and he's like, "Hey, do you have a topic for the show? Because we should talk about Star Wars and like how bad it is." And like I was like, for me, this is not a topic of the show because these PC ports for AAA games come out and they're constantly broken, just destroyed.
They get fixed over time.
It's even happening on PlayStation. I don't mean to cut you off, but it's even happening on PlayStation. The Last of Us. The Last of Us. A PS3 game came out on PC this year.
I was going to bring that up because The Last of Us was very bad when it came out. Yeah, I don't know. I guess developing games for consoles and moving it to PC is difficult. I don't know why it kills the game, but it does, and they have to fix it. And they always do. They usually do fix it, especially with big AAA games.
At what point is enough enough? What's up to the coach in the chat? He says PC gaming is for cheaters. He's correct. I don't know, man. PC gaming, like PC NASCAR. Yeah, it is a really good take, actually. I mean, it's just I don't know. Like I can't support the PC gaming sphere, like because that's the type of product that gets put out. And you could say, well, that's on the developers and the publishers to do better. It's like I understand that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go where the best versions are, and that's the console space is where the money is.
Yeah, the games are made for console, so they just run. Yeah, built for console, you know.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just kind of wanted to touch on that, and we'll see. You might still buy the Ally though.
Oh yeah,
and that's not a knock on the Ally itself. It's the problem with the publishers and developers.
And the games I want to play, like I said, I'm primarily looking at Game Pass, and those games usually just run well on PC. So
yeah. So what is he playing on? Do you know? Yeah. I think he's playing on PS5.
Yeah, and you can also
Jeff, next time you play, look at the gameplay and see if there's any button inputs because usually
also you can use keypad and mouse on PS5, so he could be doing that as well.
Maybe, but I think it still would say X or cross. I'm sorry, square.
No, yeah, they're usually good with that. Yeah.
All right. I don't know if he's having no problems and everyone else is having problems. It's probably a PS5. He has said, or Respawn has said that they have patches coming out. I think they actually put a patch out today.
Yeah.
But again, it's still just kind of the idea of it, the point of it. All right. So next up, Xbox Game Pass. We talked about Xbox Game Pass in the last segment. Just kind of wanted to share a little thing during Microsoft's earnings call for Q3 2023 last week. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella revealed that Xbox subscriptions are now bringing in $1 billion per quarter. Jez Corden, who reported on this from Windows Central, clarified that this is in fact just Game Pass. This doesn't incorporate other little subscription things that they do, like Xbox Gold or like Fallout 76, I think, has a subscription thing. This is strictly Game Pass. So Game Pass for them is bringing in $1 billion per quarter. I thought this was really awesome news for the service. I mean, it definitely continues to paint Game Pass as a viable alternative to how you consume your games, the subscription model.
No, yeah, I think that's cool. Sorry. I hope that there's been a lot of worries that, like, at any point Microsoft could raise the price just because of how good of a deal Game Pass seems to be so far. But it seems like you're making this much money, maybe you don't have to. Yeah, I think Microsoft wants to. I don't think Xbox wants to. So I think, you know.
Well, also more on that later.
Okay.
Wink and a nod.
Okay.
It's funny you said that. All right, let's go over to the chat. Coach says he'll get Game Pass if they get Madden day one, like does MLB. He'll sell his PS5 instantly, so I need to tell him in advance. Coog's here. What's up to the Coog? What's up, guys? Yeah, I mean, I know that Madden's important to Coach, and never say never. I mean, again, MLB The Show comes out day and date. Usually they get NBA 2K for a little bit as well. So it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. I would also say, I don't know. I mean, expect things like that to happen if the Activision deal falls through. Because here's the thing, Microsoft wants Xbox to be profitable. I'm telling you right now, and again, we'll talk about it a little bit later. If this deal falls through, and like Xbox is going to be profitable without Call of Duty, because again, they're generating $1 billion a quarter.
Yeah.
I think that they go on to say, Sedella goes on to say that 15% of Microsoft's income is Game Pass or Xbox in general. And that's a good chunk of change for Microsoft. 15% doesn't sound like a lot for us, but when you break down how much money the company Microsoft makes, 15% is a lot. But I mean, yeah, if this Activision deal doesn't go through, I would expect Microsoft to like gloves come off, like especially because like with the news coming out that PlayStation is paying other publishers not to just make games for them, but to specifically not make games for Xbox, which that's been kind of going around on the rumor mill lately. I would say buckle up, because if Xbox will drop, $69 billion to buy something, they're gonna spend money and they're willing to do it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say on that. But more on that later. Anything you want to talk about Game Pass before we move on?
No, I just think that because they're the leader in this market, it's streaming in general. They kind of run the show. They can do what they want money wise. It might hurt us on the end, but we'll see.
Okay.
Hope this Activision deal goes through.
I do too. It's really for the best. All right. Moving on in the headlines, just to kind of confirm what we talked about last week, because it was rumored last week, it got confirmed since last episode. From Software and Bandai Namco have announced that Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon launches on August 25th of this year. They shared a gameplay trailer. For those unfamiliar, Armored Core is a franchise that predates From Software's more well-known games like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, one that seemingly had taken a sidestep as a developer focused on these games. The last entry, we talked about this last week, but the last entry, Armored Core 5, came out in January 2012.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited for this game. I think it looks just phenomenal. The gameplay, or the trailers, I should say, look really exciting.
And they also said it's not going to play like Elden Ring.
No.
But I don't know. It still seems like it's very hyped, and it's like very like people are excited for this. People don't want another Elden Ring with their Armored Core, so
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great.
I think they're going to kill it again.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a big
what they do.
Big release for them.
Yeah.
All right, next up. Did I? Oh my goodness, again?
I didn't even notice that.
Good catch. All right, next up in the headlines, Super Mario Brothers, the movie, has officially smashed the $1 billion sales globally. It is officially the first film of the year to cross the milestone. As of Sunday, yesterday, after 26 days of release, the animated video game adaptation from Universal, Illumination, and Nintendo has grossed $490 million in North America and $532 million internationally. It's only the fifth movie of the pandemic to join the club, following Spider-Man: No Way Home, Top Gun: Maverick, Jurassic World: Dominion, and Avatar: The Way of Water. The Super Mario Brothers movie opened in theaters April 5th and generated a towering $204 million in its first 5 days of release. This movie is fucking phenomenal. And if you haven't seen it, go see it.
Yeah.
I want to see it again. I just have not had the time to go see it.
Yeah.
It's that good where it's like,
If you grew up on Nintendo, it's just a great movie. Like,
yeah, it's
if you're a critic and you're going there to like for I don't know what you're going there for, maybe you won't like it, but other than that, it's just a fun movie from start to finish. Music, like I don't know, it's great.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's such a good movie. I have the 4K Blu-ray pre-ordered on Amazon. I can't wait for it to come out. I want to watch it another 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
I want to do the Mario. It's awesome. Just such a great movie. I'm so happy to see them do well. See, now you have to do the Smash Brothers movies. You have to.
You're skipping ahead.
They made $1 billion.
You're skipping ahead.
They made $1 billion. Look, I'm just telling you. Every like 2 years,
You gotta do the Link movie first.
do a Zelda movie, and then do like a Kirby movie, and then like here's the thing: you do it smart. You do it like the games did it, where like the first movie doesn't need to be 100 characters. It doesn't need to be that. Have it be like 8. Have it be the original 8 Smash Brothers characters, and like them be in the movie. And like you can introduce some of those characters in that movie.
You're going way too far ahead. You're going way too far. It's all right.
It's like so first they're gonna do the Zelda movie, and then they're gonna do
the
the Kirby movie.
Maybe Seth Rogen gets his own Donkey Kong movie. That'll be really cool.
I think they're gonna do it though. Seth Rogen was great. Coach Nick says that his son wants to play so many video games, and PS Plus is dirt. It is dirt.
Yeah, Game Pass is actually worth it, I think.
Yeah. Coach says Jeff plays as much PlayStation as Roman wrestles. It's funny. All right. Speaking of professional wrestling, AEW Fight Forever. We have an update on the game, and that it's just more closer to completion. Announced at this point almost 2.5 years ago, Fight Forever has been keeping fans waiting for any information about the game's release. After originally being expected for release last year, the game has seen a few hiccups leading to delays. Those issues could finally be coming to an end, with the release possibly being right around the corner. It was previously reported by Fightful that material was filmed by talent earlier this year. Insider Gaming has learned this week, though, that AEW Fight Forever, all the promotional material has been finished. Everything that needed to be shot has been done, and everything that had to be edited or updated is complete. At this point, it's simply waiting for a green light to begin the full promotion of the game, aside from reminders during the episodes of AEW's weekly television. Sources around the game's promotional team, however, tell Insider Gaming that they haven't been told anything about when that will begin. Recently, THQ Nordic's global community manager, Zydes, claimed that the game wasn't almost done. This was despite comments from Tony Khan and Kenny Omega stating the opposite, but said that it was viewed as done by a publisher and developer standpoint. Insider Gaming sources have insisted that the game is ready from a development standpoint, aside from ongoing bug fixes and updates that will be worked on all the way through launch and beyond. So, Kook's probably still playing a GameCube. That's funny. No, so AEW Fight Forever, I mean, I think the game is done. I know that the community manager said it wasn't. I think that the community manager probably is trying to word it better because he knows how fans get with games and game releases. I think Tony and Kenny are looking at it from a aspect where, like, hey, the game's done. I do believe them when they say it's done. I believe them that it's done. Obviously, we talked a few weeks ago about the GCW thing, which is another promotion. They have an issue with the name now all of a sudden, so maybe that's what's holding them up at this point. But it just seems like the game is ready to go. It seems like the game is done. They're just doing some quality assurance, which in today's gaming sphere does happen all the way up to launch and past launch. And all the promotional stuff is shot and ready to go. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see on this. But it sounds done. It sounds like it's completely done. Everything's done. They're just waiting for to be able to release it. But that is our update on Fight Forever.
Hopefully, like, you don't have to wait much longer. Like, I don't know.
I'm excited to get my hands on it. I know Jeff is. I know Coog and Coach Nick who are in the chat. They're also very excited for it. Drop it on Wembley weekend. That could be the play. Believe it or not. At that point, like if you're ready to go in July, you might as well hold off a month and have it coincide with the All In show. I mean, why not? Game Boy. Liquid Death is so good. I think I told you, producer Jeff, but Liquid Death, and this we're not sponsored, but like now they have king size tall boy cans. So it's like an extra like 3 or 4 ounces. And it's so good. No, it's because it's the Liquid Death is mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's expensive. I feel
It's expensive water. And like,
yeah. I just need water.
yeah,
It's been raining a lot this last few days. I can drink rainwater. It's all right.
exactly. That's fair. We'll just have producer Jeff. You just need to like Photoshop a can of Liquid Death every time Devroro goes to sip. You have to like paste it on there.
We need a sponsor. You know, let's reach out to them, see if they can sponsor us.
Yeah, right. That would be amazing because I love it so much. What an amazing brand too. Again, seriously, not sponsored. I will sponsor them for free, basically. Although money would be nice. Anyways, let's get on to the last headline. Quick little thing. So the Xbox dashboard is getting a little bit of an update. Nothing too major. It is basically so Xbox listens to their insider program and to their fans a lot, and a lot of the updates that they do for their console and the dashboard comes from requests and input from the fans. And one of the biggest things, which I'm 100% in agreement with, is so like the Xbox Series X has these really cool dynamic backgrounds, and you can put your own art on the backgrounds. It's like there's a lot of customization to your dashboard background.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that on the current dashboard, and we don't have an image available at the moment, but all of that stuff that you're seeing that producer Jeff is showing right now is usually taking up about 3/4 of the screen. The boxes are all bigger and scaled upwards. With this, it shows a lot more of the art,
which is cool. I actually like this image.
And so they also said that there's going to be an option, and what you're seeing is the option working right now. So if you in the Xbox dashboard, the top line is all your games that you've played recently. You can have it where when you scroll through them, it'll show the art as the background.
Cool.
Yeah, so like if you were to go right here, Minecraft Legends would show up instead of this bear from Ori. Excuse me. But so I think this is a really cool little thing. Doesn't really do a lot, but yeah, it's dope. I'm very happy about this because their dynamic backgrounds are really cool. All right, that is it for the game headlines for the week. Let's get into the video game releases for the week of May 1st. First up, we have Age of Wonders 4 coming out on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC tomorrow on May 2nd. Redfall finally coming out on Xbox Series and PC on May 2nd.
Does not feel like it.
Yeah,
it's really weird.
We're going to talk a little bit about Redfall before I get, but let me finish this real quick. Super Dungeon Maker comes out on Switch and PC on May 3rd, and Ravenlock comes out on May 4th for Xbox Series, Xbox One, PC, and that is a day one Game Pass title. Ravenlock, they made a game that came out last year called Echo Generation, and that game was phenomenal. I loved Echo Generation. So I'm excited to play Ravenlock whenever I get around to it. Let's talk about Redfall, though, Devroro. So, Redfall, I would assume that while the game comes out tomorrow, and it should be available for Game Pass probably around right now, based off how these Game Pass big releases have been going. So the embargo for the reviews didn't go up yet. But 2 went up and then were taken down because they went out too early.
Okay.
One of them was a 4 out of 10, and the other one was a 7 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10. So I haven't looked much into it. I am a little concerned about some of the early buzz, including some kind of vague tweets from insiders. I don't know. I'm a little concerned about Redfall now because I've liked everything that I've seen up to this point, but I have a bad feeling that we might get see a pretty cold reception tomorrow. What do you think?
I mean, that's scary. I mean, this game is fighting an uphill battle. Like, people are already upset that it's not 60 frames per second, which I personally don't think is a big deal. And then you have it in between. We have it near bigger games that are coming up.
Zelda and Star Wars.
Technically in between. Star Wars came out already. Zelda's coming out next week.
Star Wars came out on Friday. Zelda comes out in 11 days.
And they're both sequels that are just building off of their previous game, whereas this is a new IP, and it's an uphill battle. Those review scores don't give it much confidence, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm
looking at the gameplay that's up, and it's like it looks fun.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see. Well, again, yeah, little concern. The game looks good though, but it's also never a good sign when the review embargo doesn't go up before a game launches. So the fact that the review embargo is not up yet.
That is true.
Now, it may go up tonight. I don't know exactly when the embargo lifts.
No, but a lot of times that's not a good sign.
But no.
Yeah.
Usually, it's not out yet. The reviews aren't out yet, and the game should be available within hours.
Yeah.
Well, it is going to be available within hours. We are hours away from launch.
Yeah.
And there's not much word on it right now. I'm so intrigued about this. I might install it tonight. I'm playing Advance Wars, but I'm very intrigued about Redfall and kind of want to see it with my own two eyes. I may skip over Advance Wars.
It's kind of weird because the studio doesn't really put out a bad game.
No, they don't. Dishonored and Deathloop.
Yeah, they don't really put out bad games. I guess there's this first game that's focused on multiplayer, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Fair.
But yeah, it's a little strange. We'll see.
I don't know. Who knows? Maybe you can install it tonight too. I don't know. You have work in the morning though.
Yeah.
I don't work until 2 p.m. tomorrow. But I mean, we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe I'll try to pop it in, and maybe we can try to get some play of it in this week coming up, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about it next week on Monday. But all right, that is the game releases for the week. Obviously, Redfall is supposed to be my big pick for the week, but I mean, with Redfall kind of getting some negative vibes, and Ravenlock is sitting there. I mean, look, man. Echo Generation was great. I have not watched Stranger Things, but this is basically the vibe of it was if Stranger Things was a Super Nintendo RPG, but it looks better than Super Nintendo, but it's kind of an old school looking vibe, very 80s.
You told me about it, and it does sound like I'm intrigued by it. Maybe something I should.
It was a really good game. Yeah. I got the 1,000 gamer score on it on Game Pass. It was great. But yeah, we'll have to see. Check out Ravenlock. Check out Redfall. If you have Game Pass, you can check out both. That's the best. All right. Let me pull up the next part of the show, which is my review for Octopath Traveler 2. Very good game. All right. Octopath Traveler 2. Let's talk about it. So, for those that don't know, Octopath Traveler 2 is a sequel to the original Octopath Traveler, a name that we didn't think was going to stick originally when they first announced the game because it was Project Octopath Traveler, and they were like, oh, they're going to change this name, right? And they never did. And you know what? I love it. It's great. It's weird, it's quirky, and it's great.
Each character represents a letter in Octopath, so that's cool. It's one way to fit it in for some reason.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else I would call it, so it works. There's 8 people, and they're all travelers. So there you go, Octopath Traveler. So this is a sequel. It's a JRPG for the Switch and the PS5. For clarification, because I like to do that, I played it on the Switch. So let's dive into my thoughts on it. So first up, I want to talk about the story. So Octopath Traveler 2, as we just said, it features 8 characters with unique story paths. These characters are all different classes and different characters, different stories. Some of these stories include, but are not limited to, a merchant who wants to rid the world of poverty, a scholar framed for the murder of his family, and an apothecary on a quest to recover her lost memory while aiding others on the way. I absolutely loved these characters, and I loved the story of the game. Octopath Traveler 2 does something really awesome so in the first game, every character had 4 chapters, and each chapter had some story build-up, a dungeon, and then a big boss at the end of the dungeon. And then you wrap it up, and you go on to the next chapter. In this game, they actually broke it up and really kind of shook up the formula, for me at least, where not all characters have the same number of chapters. Some chapters have multiple different required routes. Some chapters are strictly story and have no bosses, no dungeons. Others are very heavy on combat. And it really kind of caught me off guard because I remember getting into it and I was like, all right, chapter 2 of this character. And I went into this town and it was a 10-minute chapter with like really good storytelling. And I was like, okay, so this is the boss that I'm fighting. And they're like, no, this guy is dead. He didn't, he poisoned himself. And I'm like, whoa, what? But so like it was a really interesting way to shake up the story. Jeff's got the B-roll playing right now.
Yeah.
Particio the merchant. He wants to rid the world of the devil that is poverty. What a great guy. Like Particio, side note, it's not a part of my review. Particio is like capitalism good. Particio is the argument for capitalism is good. Like this dude is like the lawful good capitalist. Anyways. So yeah, as I was saying, the writing is phenomenal. Like something that really kind of stuck with me, like afterwards, was how well the writing was for the villains and the bosses and the levels. Most of these bosses and levels, I was going into these fights just wanting to beat the crap out of them because of like how much I hated them. Like you are a piece of garbage.
That's cool. That's
I can't wait to do this boss fight. It has nothing to do with the gameplay. I love the gameplay too, which I'll get to. It has nothing to do with that. It's just the fact of like you are such a dislikable person or thing that I cannot wait to see you fall.
That's cool. I like when you can hate a villain. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of them. They don't all hit like that, but most of them, for me at least, did. And that's just good writing. Like when you're at a point like in storytelling in 2023 where it's like not only do you get me to hate a villain, you got me to hate multiple villains.
Yeah.
Like that's impressive. Something else that's new to Octopath Traveler 2 in terms of the story is what's called the crossed paths. So in the original, one of the biggest issues that people had was so you have all 8 of these characters who journey together and they have their own stories, and these stories never really intersect with each other. And this game does a few things to have them intersect, which is really cool. The first thing they do is these cross-path storylines, which is basically like they take 2 of the characters and they have separate stories and chapters for those 2 characters. So every character has their own single story, and then everyone else has a like side story where they both do
interact
things
with
one other and the other traveler.
That's cool.
Really cool. And then the other thing that they do, which I love this so much, was no spoilers, but all of the stories intersect into a final chapter, and this final chapter was absolutely incredible. I loved it. I clocked in at near like 98 and a half hours on this game. And like just the ending of these characters' stories together was really awesome to see. It's just great to see the characters interacting at the end of your journey, and it's really awesome that they wait until the very end to do this, like because there is like little dialogue between your characters as you go through the story, but to see the game ending with like, hey, these characters have been on an adventure and they are close.
That's cool.
Like it's really cool. I really loved it.
For it to tie it all together, because I know it was a big issue with the first one people wanted. So that's cool.
Yeah, it really was.
Is there one like overarching villain?
Yes and no. You have to play the game to kind of get it. There's a lot of subtlety to it where like I don't know how to not spoil it, so I can't. But like let's say a very vague yes.
Okay.
Like a very vague yes to it. Actually, in the last act, it does tie together. So yeah, we can go a little bit. It's still a vague yes.
Are there a few overarching villains? Is that how it kind of like?
It's like a somewhat yes. Again, it's kind of hard to say without spoiling.
I got you.
And I don't want to spoil it. I want people to go play this game. You should absolutely go play it after I'm done reviewing it. Let's see. So yeah, all around excellent storytelling. Touching on the art style and the sound design. Just the HD 2D. I'm a sucker for it. I think this game is gorgeous.
Yeah.
The sunlight that shines through when you're walking through the trees.
Yeah, it's like the
clouds moving. Yeah. It is a gorgeous game, and I think this is the best HD 2D game that they've put out looking wise to date. Obviously, I love Octopath 1, and Live Alive was really good as well. But yeah, this was a gorgeous game. The soundtrack, I'm gonna say it. I think that outside of The Legend of Zelda, this is one of the best gaming soundtracks I've ever heard. Like even when you came over a few times and like the music, you were just like, wow, this music is just so perfect. And I'm not saying I'm ranking it as like number two right behind Zelda, but it's very high up. Like I found myself listen like, man, some of these sounds are just like really good. Some of these songs are just so good, so well done, so amazing. They don't have a lot of vocals in them, but they have like some kind of chorusy vocals in some of them, and just it's always fitting to where they are and what's being told and what's going on, and absolutely loved it. Right, so next up, we're going to talk about the gameplay. As I said earlier, this is a JRPG. A lot of your casual fare, where four-player party, you total 8 characters, you cycle characters in and out of your party. Characters will have classes, give them unique abilities during and outside of battle. Octopath Traveler, one of the things about it is the complexity of its systems, especially in Octopath 2, because it furthers the complexity. So in Octopath Traveler 2, you got things like mana, which is like SP. You have battle points, which are you accrue these points every turn, and you use them to make your moves more powerful or do multiple successions of moves. They add this new thing called latency power, which is a bar that fills up every time you get hit or break shields, and that gives you another special ability. And then, of course, you have enemies who are shielded, and they have a weakness system, and you need to break their shields based off what weapons you use. Um, Turn layout is set 2 turns in advance, but can be manipulated. So basically, I don't know if producer Jeff had any B-roll with combat going on, but you basically at the top of the screen it shows the turn order for the next 2 turns. And the biggest part of the gameplay, it's not really your traditional RPG sense where you just want to keep hitting things. Like I know that there's like things like
Yeah.
you could play an RPG very strategically, but most RPGs, being realistic,
You just attack them.
you could just attack, and as long as you're picking the right attacks, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's not the case in Octopath Traveler. If you go into it playing like that, you're gonna get your ass kicked. There are times where the best thing you can do is to do nothing, is to wait a turn because you don't want to mess up your shot.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's just factual. I think I'm not sure if producer Jeff has it up on the B-roll right now.
Dude, the combat looks awesome, and this is like literally the first fight you get into.
Yeah, so this is really simple combat comparatively. Now imagine this with 4 of your characters and like 3 enemies.
The visuals are amazing. I love that.
It is. It really is. You're picking some great B-roll here. This is and this is again, like you said, is very early. This is chapter 1 of Partitio's story. So like this is like for some people, this is like the first 20 minutes of the game.
Okay.
You could get here in 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes. Oh, there you go. Well, if you choose Partitio, because you get to choose whichever character you use first.
Okay.
So this person chose Partitio as their first character. But so this, yeah, the gameplay is just, it's an incredible thing. And strategy is just so key. And you basically, you want to break their shields while also setting yourself up to just deal maximum damage with big attacks.
Okay.
And because if you mess up, like for example, if you break their shields too late, then you don't get a free turn where they can't move.
Okay.
If you break it early, you want to break the shields early so that way they don't have, the enemy can't attack for 2 turns until they refresh.
Okay.
And the shields refresh.
That's a lot of strategy.
It's a lot of strategy.
That's cool.
And it's key. And while it can be very challenging, it is so rewarding. When I finished, like, beat the last boss, for example, I was like, oh my god. There's a really cool thing that the last boss does, which I don't want to spoil. Like, I want to spoil it, but I don't want to spoil it. There's something really cool that it does.
Okay.
And it only happens in the last boss fight. But it's really cool. So this is a nitpick for me, because again, this is a review, and maybe I'm nitpicking, but I feel like I'm nitpicking at least. I find that some of the later chapter bosses are extremely difficult.
Okay.
Like I'm playing through the game and I'm doing.
Go through what your what game is this again? Just give it in the chat.
What's up, TJ? Yeah, we're talking about Octopath Traveler 2. This is my review for it. You're a little halfway through. Overall, this is an HD 2D game. Really love the visuals, love the story, excellent storytelling.
So the boss is getting more difficult. Is it because they expect? Are you low level? Do they expect you to grind a little bit? Do they expect?
So that's the interesting thing also about Octopath Traveler 2. And I actually didn't write this in my review, so I'm glad you asked that question. So while levels do matter, the more important thing is the gear that you equip. So basically, every level raises your stats from 1 to 4 points per level. And it's random, it's RNG depending on what goes up by how much, but only 1 to 4 points. Whereas like gear, like just to lay it out for you, so like my best axe on my hunter had an attack power of plus 380.
Okay, wow.
And levels up give you 1 to 4 possibly of attack.
Okay, I get what you mean.
So like yes, the levels matter and they will add up. And my guys, I did have to do some grinding towards the end of the game, but not a lot, like very minimal, which is also probably why I really love this game. Because if you go and if you play strategically and you assign secondary classes, which I'm not a huge fan of. We talked about last week about how it changes their aesthetic, but that is something you can do in this game. It has secondary classes where you can, that's a necessity, by the way. If you're struggling late game, if you're playing Octopath Traveler, because this happened to me in the first game, if you're struggling and like you don't know why,
get a secondary.
Get secondary classes for your characters.
The way you described it last week, it just sounds like free stat boost. Like it's a free stat boost in a way.
Yeah, but the stat boosts are it's a free stat boost, but the stat boosts are somewhat substantial. So it's definitely worth investing the time into to find, which they're easier to find in this game. In the first game, they were a little bit more difficult to find, if I recall. But this game, I found them all pretty much no problem without even trying, really. But yeah,
I love how in this battle right here, there's like other people fighting in the background, but they're not part of this fight. That's really cool.
Yeah, there are a few chapters where little things like that happen. You see it a lot with Hikari as well, who is one of the other characters. I don't want to go into too many spoilers, but it's really cool. So let me touch on some new things to Octopath Traveler 2, which are different from the first game.
Okay.
The first thing is latent power, which I kind of mentioned. I don't think you could see it, no, because this is too early in the game. So producer Jeff does not have his latent power. Well, Particio doesn't have his latent power on the B-roll. So latent power is a new mechanic that kind of adds on to it, where every time you take damage or you break an enemy shield, it fills up your bar. And every character, not class, every character has their own special latent ability. And these abilities differ. So it's like with classes, when you have a secondary class, you get the abilities of that class. But each character keeps their own latent ability.
Gotcha.
For example, one of the characters, Temenos, who is the monk, he's the monk, or the cleric, he has a latent ability where all of his attacks can break shields, whether they're using the right weapon or not. And that can be really big if you go into a fight and you're like, oh wow, this guy is weak to spears and I have no spear users on my team. It can come in pretty clutch at some points for that. What else? There's this other one. Some of the characters are more damage based, where it's like they just do like a bunch of damage. And you as you play, you learn what works for you and what works for your characters, and that's how you build your strategy, and you work around it. Another change for this game is there's a time of day mechanic where the game will shift between day and night. You can do it really well done here because not only will time pass on its own, just for the sense of immersion, but you can also, at the click of a button, change it from day to night. And this matters because
I was going to ask why would that matter?
So different characters, different side quests, different items, different enemies will appear whether it's day or night. Not so much items, but a lot of it is like side quests, characters. I think some of the enemies differentiate depending on when you go as well. Don't quote me on that specifically. And then each character has a day ability and a night ability. So for example, the thief can, during the day, can pickpocket. He can go up to people, steal whatever they have out the whatever they have in their pockets. And at night, the thief can knock out NPCs, which, like, say there's an NPC blocking a doorway. You can knock out that NPC, go into the doorway, and oh wow, look at this chest with all this loot. And I just think that it was so in the first game, every character had one ability outside in the open world, and it made it kind of predictable to who you were going to use, at least for me, because like another big tip for this game is make sure you talk to everybody and you loot everybody, whether you're stealing or doing the dancer as a lore feature, like, or whatever you're doing, or like, I mean, the merchant can buy items, but you're spending money at that point, so that's the least recommended of those three, but it's an option. But in the first game, it'd be like, well, you're always going to take the thief with you because they can pickpocket. It's like, well, now, like, all the characters have different things that they can do, and some of them are generally the same, but some of them are easier in other ways. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like, sometimes it makes more sense to bring the dancer with you to do the allure. It's the same thing as pickpocket, but it works.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Excuse me. Let's see, what else? So another thing they added, crossing water, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it kind of opens up the map, both in a micro and a macro sense. So when you're walking through and you see like a lake, you can actually, you have to get in where at a pier, but you can actually cross like a lake, which not a huge deal if you haven't played the first game, but in the second game, it just opens up a lot. Something that Octopath Traveler likes to do, and we were talking about it, where it's like there's a fork in the road, and you go the wrong way and you miss out on loot. Octopath Traveler loves to misdirect you away from loot and like hide pathways, and the lakes add to it. But it's just like if you know how to look for things, you'll find it.
Okay.
And then the other thing about the map was, so in this time around, the map is 2 different continents, and there's actually a way to cross the ocean and explore the ocean. And again, it just really added to the exploration of the map, and I really loved that they made this overworld map a lot more engaging. I was kind of really surprised in a good way. Because in the first game, it was like the overworld was like, just get me to the next town so I can do the next chapter. Whereas like here, like there was like a lot of stuff that I felt like you like to go off the path and find stuff.
So what Jeff has up now, this was like later in the game, fighting.
Looks so good.
So yeah, this is probably, it looks like they're still around Orush, so this is probably still Partitio's story.
Okay.
Which I see Partitio at the bottom. Okay, and then it goes to Ku. Okay. So yeah, this is just like a general kind of B-roll going around type thing.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Other small thing, but like a thank God small thing is, so in this game they offer a battle speed up. So when you're in a battle, you can go to ×2 speed, which when you're going through the overworld, and you're doing like the same fights.
Yeah, that sounds great actually.
It's such a small thing, but it's so good. So appreciated.
What can I should out of
that? Excuse me. Anyways, so a little thing that was really cool, that I really appreciated. So I was playing the game, and I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, so it's going to sound very vague, but I just wanted to point out how much I love the attention to detail here. So I was playing the game. At this point, I was like maybe like 35-ish hours in, and I go to this area that I had been to before, and I get there, and things were not right. Things were very off. The music was different.
Oh, okay.
The lighting was different. An enemy that I faced was very different, and I had no idea what was going on.
That sounds cool already. Like, I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on.
The fact that you've been there before,
and then
you feel like something.
I had been there before, and it just wasn't right. And at first I was like, oh, it's just nighttime. But then I was like, wait a second, this music is not the same. Again, the music in this game is just phenomenal. So you pick up on cues like this. And so I'm playing, and I fight this enemy, and then as soon as I beat the enemy, everything goes back to normal. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And I'm looking online, and mind you, this game had just come out, so everyone's like, we have no idea what this is. And then
you find out later on.
So it does tie into something that happens at the end of the last fight, like the last chapter, when everything ties together.
Yeah.
And so like I actually remember looking it up like a little bit later on, like recently, and someone was like, yeah, this is a completely random thing that pops up. It's not set to happen any one time or one place.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's not even guaranteed you're going to come across it. Somebody likened it to experiencing finding a shiny Pokemon.
That's really cool.
And I'm just like,
if they could do more of that stuff.
I love this so much that they really put in for this little detail. And again, it like according to people, it's a very minuscule chance you come across it. It happened to me twice in my playthrough. Only twice though, and I played for 100 hours. So, I don't want to spoil it, but it was really cool. And then my last nitpick for the review, or my last issue with it, is the side questing. I feel like the side questing could use some refinement. It's very similar to the first game. Um, and what I mean by that is just like I feel like when you're playing the main quest, it's very easy to go where you need to go. With side quests, they leave it very vague. It's very vague. It doesn't always tell you like I don't need to be told where to go at every possible out like you know what I mean like every step. But like some of it is just so vague, and they expect you to remember things that happen like 100 hours later. It's like you go to the first town and someone's like, "Oh man, I really wish I knew somebody who liked octopus like I do." And then like 60 hours in, you come across somebody who likes octopus. You're supposed to remember. You're like, "Hey, I need to take you back to that first town."
I was gonna ask, is there a way to log in quests? Like if someone says something like that.
So there's a slight log in the menu, but it doesn't track super well. Like it'll tell you where you started the quest or like what area of the map the quest is in, and it'll show you like a little tidbit of information like, oh, this so and so really likes octopus. If only you could find someone who likes octopus. And I guess like yeah, you could scroll through it. I just think that side quests need, because they're not the main story, like you need to do better at making them engaging. And that like if I had one issue with Octopath Traveler 2, it's that. I found the side questing to be generally kind of uninteresting, and like some of them are relatively easy because they're all like in a very located area, and I usually did those. But like if it's like, oh, you go across the map to find someone who does this, and then make sure you remember to bring them back here. It's like, well, when I'm back in that next town, when I'm in that town 5 towns from now, I'm gonna be doing the main quest and not thinking about the side quest.
Yeah.
Like I want to set aside time to side quest. That's how I just play these games.
Okay.
So that would be my biggest issue with the game. That being said, after about 100 hours in Octopath Traveler 2, after like while the credits were rolling, my initial thought was like, I was upset that my time was over.
Okay.
At 100 hours, I felt that
insane. That's the complete opposite of
Assassin's Creed.
Complete opposite.
Mm-hmm. I honestly was sitting there like, man, I would love for this game to come to like Game Pass so I have a reason to play it again for like achievements, like strictly that, or like even just come to Xbox period, just so I could play it like for achievements or something, like just have another incentive to go back and play it again. Octopath Traveler 2, for lack of a better term, in my opinion, it's a Game of the Year contender that will be overshadowed this year by other huge releases.
Oh yeah.
This game will not be talked about in November, and it's a criminal. It's criminal. My final score for Octopath Traveler 2 is a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
If I'm sitting here 100 hours in, and I just think so fondly back on the time spent. I loved it. Were there times where I got frustrated because of difficult battles? Yeah, but I didn't feel like it was right to knock the game for that in terms of a score. I mean, at the end of the day, the game wasn't broken. It just once I figured it out, I was able to do it, which was a bit of a time sink, but it is what it is. And yeah, again, the side questing thing it didn't feel like a big enough deal for me to want to take it off. So, yeah,
that's good.
Give it a 10 out of 10. Jeffrey Vegas with the 10 out of 10. There it is. Interesting.
10 out of 10 fairy.
Yeah. He was something though. It's good. But anyways, that's Octopath Traveler 2. Go out and play it. Go out and buy it. It's on Switch, PS5. Highest recommendation. If you love JRPGs, if you love RPGs, if you love really good stories.
Real quick, if there is, which I don't know, there might be. If there's an Octopath Traveler 3, what do you want to see from it?
See, I'm the kind of person, and this could be very disagreeable. I don't ever think there's anything wrong with more of the same if the formula is a winning formula.
But there's always room for improvement.
I would say maybe a little bit more character integration in the stories. Like it was phenomenal that they had this end game where everything was really tied together and everybody got along. It would be really cool to get a little bit more of that throughout the game. They do that with side banter, which does happen throughout the game, but I mean, I guess more of that would be cool. Maybe more side stories. I wouldn't want them to add anything else to the gameplay. I think the gameplay is very complex as it is, and they have a right balance right now. So I don't want to see anything really added there. Maybe different classes. Maybe some different classes, but in general, like I don't know where they would add from here.
Would you want a different maybe location, maybe
Oh, sure.
use that game, but maybe it's in space, or maybe it's I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a really cool thing. I mean, something I really enjoyed about, like, for example, Partitio is a lot of the areas that Partitio goes to are very, like, not modern, but like steam engines and Wild West. And so, yeah, it was cool to get a scenery change, and I some of that would be nice. I think definitely that would be a cool thing. Again, like, I don't need them to change the gameplay necessarily. Just give me new characters, new story, new world to explore, and I'm cool with it. I think that they've really nailed this formula here, and I don't know what more they could do with it, but I'm very intrigued to see.
There's not a lot right now in that 2D HD space besides that, and I think Live Alive is,
Which also came from Square Enix.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Well, time for topic number 2 of the show. Well, Devroro, what happened? The CMA has blocked Xbox's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. It took a huge step backwards. The UK regulatory body known as the CMA shared that it has blocked Microsoft's purchase. CMA explained the proposed purchase over the past several months, notably raising concerns earlier in the year that the deal could harm competition. The CMA claims that it is blocking the deal over the concerns in the cloud market, despite Microsoft working tirelessly to sign deals for competing cloud platforms to gain access to Call of Duty and other games. A few weeks ago, the CMA revised and narrowed its list of concerns, accepting that evidence that Microsoft would not be inclined to remove Call of Duty franchise from competing console space, specifically PlayStation. They even came out and said that they didn't think that it was going to affect the console sphere at all. So it was very surprising for them to come out with issues.
Microsoft said that?
No, the CMA.
I'm surprised, actually.
Yeah, I think that might have been the week you weren't here. The CMA came out and said, we don't have an issue with the console space. There's no issue there.
That's okay.
But they block it due to the
cloud. Okay.
So let's get into a few more things before we continue this discussion. Microsoft released a statement saying that they're going to appeal the decision. They say, we remain fully committed to this acquisition and will appeal. The CMA's decision rejects a pragmatic path to address competition concerns and discourages technology innovation and investment in the United Kingdom. We have already signed contracts to make Activision Blizzard's popular games available on 150 million more devices, and we remain committed to reinforcing these agreements through regulatory remedies. We're especially disappointed that after lengthy deliberations, this decision appears to reflect a flawed understanding of this market and the way the relevant cloud technology actually works. This was Brad Smith, Vice Chair and President of Microsoft. And I think that he hits the nail on the head here. So you go through and you could read the CMA's decision, but their stance that it hurts the cloud market doesn't really hold any water when you consider that Call of Duty was not available on any cloud platforms anywhere, and now it won't be because it wasn't before. It was Microsoft that was bringing it to these cloud providers. They also, I don't think they understand exactly how the cloud market works, in a sense that Call of Duty, it's not going to be sold individually on these cloud services. It's people paying for the service and it being on there.
Yeah.
And TJ says that he agrees that it is a flawed understanding. Let's see. So next thing, subtle way that, at least that I took, that Microsoft is dedicated to fighting this. So Brad Smith put out that statement that I just read. Mm-hmm. Satya Nadella, the head of Microsoft, retweeted it.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a very subtle, but I felt like it was worth sharing. That it's like, if he wasn't 100% behind this, I don't think he would be retweeting the statement about, how they messed up.
Yeah.
Activision Blizzard put out a statement as well. They said, the CMA's report contradicts the ambitions of the UK to become an attractive country to build technology businesses. We will work aggressively with Microsoft to reverse this on appeal. The report's conclusions are a disservice to UK citizens who face increasingly dire economic prospects, which we will talk about later, actually. I do have a little bit on that. We will reassess our growth plans for the UK. Global innovators, large and small, will take note. Despite all its rhetoric, the UK is clearly closed for business. Bobby Kotick also put out a statement here in form of an email to employees, which I feel so bad for the employees of Activision at this point. It sucks.
They definitely have it the worst.
They want to get out of this so bad. They want Bobby Kotick gone. They want the culture to change. Dev, you want to read this letter on this next tab for me so I can take a second? My allergies are killing me.
Well, his Bobby Kotick's email?
Yeah, the letter, yeah.
Get it up. Let's see.
Well, while you're pulling it up, TJ says that they took the Game Pass Ultimate subscribers and attributed that to xCloud players. That's not true. Not everyone who has Game Pass Ultimate uses cloud. Just because you have access doesn't mean you're a cloud gamer. Game Pass Ultimate xCloud isn't available in all countries. He's correct on that.
It says that today the CMA, a regulatory agency in the UK, decided not to approve the merger with Microsoft. This isn't news we wanted. It is far from the final word of this deal. Alongside Microsoft, we can and will contest this decision. We've already begun the work to appeal the UK Competition Appeals Tribunal. We're confident in our case because the facts are on our side. The deal is good for competition. That's this. Yeah. For me, that's the part that like I'm on the fence about, because I do see why the CMA would say that. I don't understand it either. So like I get that. Microsoft owns about 70% of the cloud atmosphere,
mm-hmm.
and I think adding something as big as Call of Duty would give them more power. On the other side of that, them signing 10-year deals with these other smaller cloud, it's like, I don't know. It seems more 50-50 to me than it does 80-20. You know what I mean?
No, I mean I disagree. I think that they're going out of their way to sign with all these cloud distributors, and you can't be mad at Microsoft that Stadia is not around anymore for them to have that competition like that.
Definitely, I wouldn't say it's Microsoft's fault, but at the end of the day, they still are the leading market, and you're giving them more power. And it just seems.
But again, I would argue that you're. So here's my thing, and I do have more of a later point on this, but I think that the UK is really putting their consumers in a really bad way here, based off other concessions that may happen, also, which we'll talk about. But like, these games were not available right now via streaming. Call of Duty is not available on these services, and if the deal goes through, they are available. And it's not even like Microsoft is saying it's only available on our platform. It's available on these other platforms, And so I just think that, like, let me put it this way. So our next point, right? Cloud gaming provider, Boosteroid Cloud Gaming, has come out in support of Microsoft against the CMA's decision. This is one of the companies that the CMA is claiming that it's trying to protect in competition. Boosteroid says that Boosteroid's team and our users disagree with the CMA's decision against Microsoft's purchase of Activision. Our position on this issue is in line with that of Microsoft President Brad Smith. We hope for a quick resolution to this question. Okay. This is somebody in the industry that they're claiming to be protecting, saying, no, we want this deal to go through because we don't have this deal in place.
I think this is right now, it's way more in Microsoft's court than it was in Sony's. Microsoft has to prove themselves. And I think, like I said before, I think upping the years, make it a 20-year deal. If you want to get this through and the ball is in your court, you have to show that you're willing to help the competition. Because right now, I do agree that Microsoft has 70% of the power, and this is just going to make it. It's going to make it like, hey, we're good for competition. In fact,
well, Microsoft and European cloud gaming platform Enware, since this has happened, have also signed a 10-year agreement to stream PC games built by Xbox on its platform, as well as Activision Blizzard titles after the acquisition closes.
Okay, that's cool.
While it's still early for the emerging cloud segment in gaming, this new partnership, combined with our recent commitments, will make more popular games available on more cloud gaming streaming services than they are today.
That I like. I didn't know they were actually putting out other.
Yeah, they've continued to make agreements. We've reported on 3 or 4 of these.
I know that, but they're putting on other Xbox like other games. It's not just Activision games.
But would it really be a problem if it was just Activision? Because the whole question is about Activision.
I guess it would. I think it'll prove to the CMA that they're willing to put out more. Like, as big as Activision is, there are other games out there. You know what I mean?
I hear your point.
I think it's a good thing that they're putting out. Hey, you can have Activision games and some Xbox games, some other Microsoft titles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it helps them. That's a good thing. But they have to do this because right now the ball's in their court. They have to.
So the CMA also a few little notes about their decision. The CMA, this is a quote from their report. The CMA carefully considered whether the benefit of having Activision's content available on Game Pass outweighed the harm that the merger would cause to competition in cloud gaming in the UK. The CMA found that this new payment option, while beneficial to some customers, would not outweigh the overall harm to competition and ultimately UK gamers arising from this merger, particularly given the incentive for Microsoft to increase the cost of a Game Pass subscription post-merger to reflect the addition of Activision's valuable games. So basically here they're saying that they're concerned about Microsoft raising the price of Game Pass once they have it. My follow-up, if I may, to the CMA. So you're upset with the possibility that Game Pass could raise its prices. Where were you last year when most AAA publishers and Sony raised the price of their single games from $60 to $70? Like, if you're upset Game Pass going up by $1 or $2, like have the same energy. If you want the consumers to save money, then keep that stance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, that's what I'm. Yeah, that's
And I
basically.
do think it is a bigger deal for not just Game Pass, for all streaming services could raise their prices and would fluctuate whenever they want. Whereas a physical game going from 60 to 70 when games have been 60 for forever, I feel like that's it sucks, but it does seem a little more fair in a way, I guess. You know what I mean? Like streaming on that. Okay, but streaming in general. Look at Netflix or HBO or Disney Plus. Netflix has raised their price, I think, 3 times in the last 2 years.
Sure.
And I think that is way more dangerous than $70 game. You know what I mean?
I disagree.
How?
Well, number one, I don't think either of them are good for the consumer. Just saying that. But I'm saying if you're looking at the amount of content you're getting, if all video games go from 60 to 70, that's $10 extra per game. And I guess if you're only buying one game, it's not a big deal. But paying an extra $2 or $3 a month, eventually it'll add up to be more, obviously. But you're getting so much more content. I think that there is an argument to be made. Again, I'm not saying that I want Game Pass to go up, or I think it should go up. I don't. But TJ says cloud gamers are fluid. It's like switching from Netflix to Disney Plus. There's no €500 because he's also yeah. Thanks a lot, TJ, for your stupid government. I'm not saying ours is much better. I'm not saying they're much better, but just saying. Touch the screen and you've switched. Simple. And I agree with them. I think the CMA is looking at the cloud sphere as something that it's really not. I mean, I don't know. I just think they just don't understand how it works, and it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't. Their reasoning and their rationale just doesn't make sense. Other little thing that I thought was funny, I just wanted to include on here is they also go on to say that they point out in their opinion that they've seen no evidence that Call of Duty can actually run on a Nintendo platform.
I'll give them that. That's kind of funny. I'll give them. I mean, there has been Call of Duties on Nintendo platforms.
Exactly.
But yeah,
I think they absolutely could get Call of Duty running on Nintendo platforms. Will it be as good? No, but I think it can run on it. And also, we're also not taking into account. This is another spot where I think the CMA just don't understand the point of it. The point isn't about Call of Duty coming to Switch. It's Call of Duty coming to what's next. Mm-hmm. No, what's next for Nintendo.
That's true too.
That's what they need to look at, and that's what the CMA is not looking at. The CMA is looking at the Switch and what it can do. But it's a 10-year deal. Do you think we're going to be playing on our Nintendo Switch in 10 years? No, we're not going to be playing. We're going to be playing on the Switch, the Switch U, or the Wii Switch.
Yeah. Switch Cube.
The Switch Cube, I like that. Day Trading Doge says Doge hates CMA. Ankle bite's coming. Very good Doge. Good Doge. So there was a little bit of backlash in the UK, as we were talking about earlier. They were saying that the UK is closed for business. In my reading, I thought this was kind of intriguing to kind of include. So the United Kingdom has been in a near free fall since Brexit, which happened a few years ago, which has seen investment dry up from foreign firms. The UK is also faced with runaway inflation, which will see the economy decline more than sanctions hit Russia, according to IMF estimates. The block on the deal has once again called into question the current establishment's competence, given the CMA's absurd and speculative arguments for blocking a deal that would have benefited UK consumers. Microsoft planned to put Call of Duty and other games into the $10 per month service Game Pass, saving gamers from paying £50 or $60 per game. Microsoft also planned, as we said earlier, to have it come to Nintendo consoles. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has touted an intent to turn the UK into a European Silicon Valley, in reference to obviously here in the US and Northern California. CEO Bobby Kotick had previously said that if the UK sought to block its deal with Microsoft, it would become a tech investment death valley. In comments to the BBC, Smith described the block as Microsoft's darkest day in the UK in the 40 years of trading. He also lamented how the UK had become closed for investment, while touting the European Union as a place far easier to conduct business. Smith emphasized that Microsoft will reassess how it invests in the UK, echoing similar comments from Activision. They said, it does more than shake our confidence in the future of the opportunity to grow a technology business in Britain than we ever confronted before. So I think that this is actually... So I think this is actually being played in a really smart way from Microsoft and Activision's perspective, where the UK is not in the best shape right now, and for big companies like Microsoft and Activision to, so again, the UK, they want to see themselves as like a European Silicon Valley, and you have Microsoft, one of the biggest tech companies, if not the biggest in the world, saying, yeah, not good business to be done in the UK. We're gonna have to reassess the business we're doing there. Like, that's a huge blow to the country. Like, completely. TJ says Call of Duty for sure can run some way. Docked, Switch, and Skyrim and Witcher 3 have all ran on it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not multiplayer games, but yeah. We all know Nintendo's not great with multiplayer.
No, I don't think. No, you're thinking the mobile. They shut down the mobile. So here's a little funny situation going on this week in the UK at number 10 Downing Street, which I don't know if you know. It's kind of like yeah, it's a big deal for them. I think it's where the Prime Minister lives. I think, but basically, a lot of big things happen there. Microsoft is actually set to speak. They were invited by the UK government. This was before the ruling came out. The tech behemoth Microsoft is taking part in a games industry event in Downing Street this week. Let's see here. Sky News has learned that the technology giant is among the companies due to attend the event organized by UK Interactive Entertainment on April 26th. This was announced. It was the same day as the Competition and Markets Authority blocked the Microsoft acquisition. Basically,
That's such a bummer.
It's such a bummer. The exact same day, like, hey guys, Microsoft's coming to Downing Street to show off, how invested they are in UK gaming and everything like that. And it's like the very same day, it's like, by the way, we're blocking this acquisition.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, I believe that the UK government has actually said that the CMA is not technically a government-run thing, so they're kind of like, that was them. That's not us. At least in my readings, that was the vibe that I had gotten. So yeah, I kind of wanted to kind of share this as well because I just thought that this was a really funny, awkward situation. Could you imagine like Brad Smith and Microsoft are there? The Prime Minister's like, hey guys.
Everyone's just so sad.
And, well, I'm even sad. I think Microsoft's pissed. Yeah. They're not even sad. It's like, hey, look at all this stuff. Wouldn't it be a shame if like it wasn't here in the UK? Maybe something to think about. Um, that was
Reading the one article you read before that about how right now streaming is only 2% of the market. Seems like it's not a lot. That's not enough for you to block this.
I agree.
And I know streaming is going to eventually be probably leading. Like it's just
I don't think it's gonna be leading, but
I think eventually 10,
I don't-
15 years.
I don't think you'll ever get to a point. And this is like like again, I'll agree with you that physical will one day go away. But I think at the end of the day, people are going to much rather still prefer to download things to their devices.
I mean, yeah,
I think you're gonna. That's what I'm saying. That's what you're going to see. Like streaming is only going to work so well, and like even as the technology gets better, like I think people are going to be much more down to just download something, install something, and then play it.
If streaming gets better, I can't see that not being the best option. We were talking about Samsung
I would
TVs
disagree.
having Game Pass on the TV, and you're not downloading the game. You use your remote. You turn on Game Pass on your TV. You don't need a console anymore, and you just play the game. And that's through streaming. I cannot imagine a world where you don't choose that.
Input lag.
But I just said if things get better, if
I don't know how much better it can get at that point.
Oh, it's in a baby. It's in its infant stages.
I guess so.
It's very young.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. So, funny question. I have said this before. Every single one, no.
Oh yeah. So to be fair, they're trying to, and even Microsoft is doing this. They're just trying to get Game Pass in front of as many faces or in as many people's hands as possible. And they're not even worried about selling consoles anymore. They're selling a service, and that service is making them way more money than physical ever had. You know what I mean?
So I do agree with Jeff here, and I've made this argument to you before. I do think that there will always be some kind of way for collectors to spend money, and that's why I don't think. While yes, I think that physical production will ramp down. I don't think it will go away completely. I know I said that a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
But we've argued for years now. I think that physical collecting will be a thing moving forward. I mean, like they're selling.
It's never gonna go away. But I think streaming will one day be the number one way to play video games. It's going to be the leading.
Maybe. I mean,
It's not. I get it won't be for you, and I get you're still going to go get that physical copy when you can. If you can.
I'm saying if you take physical out of it, if you gave me a choice between just installing a game to my device or streaming, I would choose installing to.
Yeah, but that's still today.
Yeah, but I would argue that while the technology for streaming gets better, the technology for like storage and capacity is also going to get better.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Like, why would you choose to I'm gonna sit and wait an hour for this game to download when you could just pick up your remote and play the game?
No, it's be like, oh, hold on, let me eat something real quick. While I'm eating, I'll just let it load up.
But like no TV, no console, you just play the game.
But I'm gonna
flip one.
But here's the game. But here's the thing. I'm gonna give you the devil's advocate once again. Where okay, well, who's to say the technology doesn't get better? That maybe you can install a game in a couple seconds.
But then you have that game on your TV, and why? You download the game. You pick up your controller and you play the game.
I just think
we've always said we hated how games today you buy the game, you come home, you have to download.
Yeah,
and now that's kind of going away with streaming, and you're like, I don't want that. It's like make up your mind.
I just think that streaming. I mean, again, maybe my opinion would change 10 years from now when streaming got even better, gets even better.
Absolutely.
But even when it's good, I still think of it I think of it like this, right? Like if the wife and I are going somewhere, right, and we're driving, and I have a YouTube video playing on my phone while she's driving.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I usually will hit a place where the service just isn't as good.
Yeah.
And the video lags, or it gets all little the quality goes down.
Yeah, of course.
I just feel like no matter how good the technology gets, there will still be moments like that, and that breaking of immersion is important to me.
Well, like what you just said, you're driving, you're in a car, you're going from point A to point B, trying to download a video. I'm talking about
at home. At home
on a TV. The app is already there. You got the controller on the couch. Boop boop boop. The game you're playing the game.
It would have to.
Yeah, I agree with you guys that it has to be way better than it is today, but we're moving there very fast.
TJ's backing me up big time.
Yeah, and I agree with you. We're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But I think streaming will one day, and maybe 20 years, it's going to be the leading way people play games.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point.
And that's why Microsoft. I think that's why it's such a big deal because Microsoft's ahead of the game, and they're leading in something that's going to be big. You know.
It's already like that. Yeah.
I actually wanted to. I'm glad we just said that because did you hear about the whole thing with Star Wars, the Star Wars game, where you don't you play the first level, but you have to download the other like 80% of the game. Like that's a digital game. You get a physical case and everything, but when you buy that, you're only buying the first level,
Yeah.
and then it sucks. I hate that. The games are every day becoming more and more just in that digital realm.
Yeah, but again, like Jeff said, I think there will always be like, for example, I know Redfall, which again comes out any minute now at this point. There is
Like a physical.
there's a the bite back upgrade, which is like a day one upgrade for them, where it's like a bunch of extra content.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It comes with a game case with a code for the content in it, no disc. But that is specifically for people who are playing it on Game Pass, and the bite back upgrade doesn't come with the base game.
Okay.
It's the content and a disc and a case,
Okay.
and that's it.
I just.
But again, that's what the physical collectors are looking for. You know what I
just want
mean?
that case.
They want I want something. I just
Okay.
want something to show it off. It's like having art. It's like having artwork. It's like having any of these. You know, it's so I can do a YouTube show and you can see all my video games.
It's that I agree with you. I don't want the physical to go away, but the more this stuff gets better, it's hard to like ignore it. It's hard to even myself not partake in it. You know?
Yeah, and again, I've shared on the show before. You know, ironically enough, it was Octopath Traveler. I played Octopath Traveler on the xCloud at work the one time.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, worked really good. The input wasn't very noticeable because I was playing a turn-based RPG where it's like button, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I mean, it's cool technology, and like someday it'll be better. But I can't. Like I'm a live in the now kind of guy, so I'm looking at it like how is it right now and like within the next 5 years.
And even going back to the handheld gaming, the reason I didn't get Steam Deck is because the Game Pass runs through streaming through the cloud on there, and I didn't want to do that.
Right.
I'm going to wait for the Asus because I can download the game, like you said.
Anyways, let's move on to our next part about this whole UK thing. So after the CMA blocked it, really funny. Ukraine was like, "Oh yeah, we approved the acquisition." I was like, "I appreciate that, Ukraine, but I feel like you have a lot going on right now." You know, Ukraine they officially approved the acquisition the day after the CMA blocked it, or no, I think it was the same day actually. Um, I yeah, I think you have a lot going on right now. Like again, I appreciate the sentiment, but maybe you should just take priority, you know? So, where does this leave us? So, Michael Pachter, who is an analyst who works for Wedbush, who this guy has been around. I literally remember reading his analysis of gaming in like middle school.
Oh wow!
Like this guy's been around for forever. He was on CBS News. It's kind of like a little 6-minute clip, kind of floating around on Twitter. Really recommend it because he's a really smart guy, knows what he's talking about. Michael Pachter, he said that he sees a few ways that the deal's going to work, and he actually does think that the deal's still going to go through. The first thing that he said was he sees them doing is carving out Game Pass in the UK and have no Activision content there while they comply with all other requests making the content available on consoles. The UK would have to agree with it, which he says is likely. So while I think this would be bad for UK consumers,
Yeah, why would that help I don't understand.
So-
Explain it to me, because
Okay.
that sounds like a bad deal. Like,
So the UK is saying our issues are that you are going to use Game Pass to monopolize cloud
okay,
gaming.
Okay, I get
So
that.
what they're saying is, in the UK, because the CMA doesn't give a shit about what goes on in other countries. The CMA is looking how it affects
The UK.
their economy in the UK.
Gotcha.
And so a lot of what Michael Packer's saying, and he says that this is something that they will very likely ask for or do, because at this point it has no effect on their country. Is okay, so then no Activision content will go on Game Pass in the UK.
So you don't have to worry about competition being like
Exactly.
there.
Now it'll still be available for sale on Xbox, PlayStation, cloud services in the UK. It just won't come to Game Pass.
Okay.
Which obviously I think hurts consumers.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
But again, this is
That's
just
how it works. That's how it works.
exactly. The other thing, and Michael Pachter says this in again the CBS News one. He thinks it's very likely. Oh, did I not save the right tweet here? Okay, so the second tweet I have on the script is the video. But he also says that he feels like if Microsoft promises not to raise Game Pass's prices in the UK, then the CMA will approve the deal.
Okay.
And so he also goes on to speculate that if Microsoft were to do that in the UK, they probably wouldn't raise the prices anywhere else in the world.
That's probably like a last card for Microsoft, because
It probably is because
that's something hard to promise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Obviously, it would be great to see Game Pass not raising price for the consumers. I would love it.
I would love that too.
I do think someday they're going to have to, but if they promise that they won't, then they're going to make the money. They don't need to. We're seeing that it's revenue right now without Call of Duty. It's bringing in $1 billion per quarter.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I think that Michael Pachter here really kind of nails it. And again, I would really recommend, even after the show's done, you check out the 6-minute video. He really knows what he's talking about. And
it sounds like he's saying, like earlier I said, it's in Microsoft's, the ball's in Microsoft's court. They have to make it seem like.
Well, so Michael Pachter even goes on to say later in the interview that like the CMA just wants to. It's completely political. The CMA wants to make it seem like they're doing what's best for the consumers, and like you said, they're like putting the ball back in Microsoft's court, where it's like they want the deal to go through. They're okay with the deal going through.
Want more.
They just want to be able to take a victory lap and say, "See, look at us. The UK, we're all about the consumers. We fought this deal and we made the deal a little bit better for the consumers."
Yeah.
Which, if you cut Game Pass or Activision out of Game Pass, it doesn't do that. But if you get a promise. Yeah. So Michael Pachter goes as far to say that the easiest route that he sees for this deal to still actually close this year and not be dragged on is if they the pathway is this. If they promise not to raise the prices of Game Pass and the CMA folds, which apparently, according to Michael Pachter, again, he's an analyst he talks to people, he knows things, but his word's not law. They could do that within the next week or two. Apparently, they want to do it before May 22nd because that is when the European Union is going to give their ruling on Microsoft's acquisition. Okay. So they want to have the CMA thing. Hopefully, if they can have it done up before then, they want to. So Michael Pachter thinks within the next week or two, we could see them make this promise to the CMA. CMA backs off. European Union approves the acquisition. And then the FTC, which you remember is suing.
Yeah.
Michael Pachter has said that and he's right, the FTC's claims are all based off what the CMA is saying. So if the CMA withdraws their claims and says that they're cool with it, the FTC's case falls through, and next thing you know, you're getting the deal done on time in June.
All right. Make it done, because I'm tired of these conversations.
I am too. I want to start talking about like the games at Activision. But so again, big recommendation. Go check out this link. It's on Twitter. You should check it out. It's in the script. But yeah, I see it as very feasible too. So I hope that that's the way that we go. So yeah, that is the update for that. Any final thoughts on the acquisition, the CMA, anything?
Right now, anyway, we'll be back next week, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's true. What about you, Producer Jeff? Do you have anything you want to add on the Microsoft Activision stuff?
We're busy.
Producer Jeff working on the 1s and 2s right now. Caught him off guard. Anyways, so okay, that's fine. All right, that's pretty much all I have for us. Zelda is 11 days out.
Yeah, that's
Can't
exciting.
wait.
I'm still playing Breath of the Wild. Just knocking through it. I forget how big the game is, and I don't know. 11 days, I don't know.
Well, that's like I gave up on us doing that. It's just not happening. So it is what it is. I'm gonna go back someday and do it.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
I'm gonna see real quick. So right now I'm playing Advance Wars Reboot Camp, which came out. Enjoying it. Probably gonna do a review of it. I'm just checking on Game Pass. Seems like Redfall's not up yet, so I probably won't be playing it tonight. If it was available, I actually would have installed it real quick. But it's not there, so it is what it is. Yeah. So next week's episode is gonna be a fun one. We're gonna be talking about Zelda before Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay.
So come with your Zelda takes, because I'm
not excited for next week, but we'll see.
I am. I'm very excited. I'm always excited to talk about Zelda. Devroro and I will fight about Breath of the Wild and probably the other Zelda games. I'm gonna have to kind of come up with like a structure because I do just kind of want to talk about Zelda before Tears of the Kingdom, and then afterwards we'll talk about the next week Tears of the Kingdom itself and where we're at with that.
All right.
But so that's the plan at the moment. All right. Well, that will do it for us here at the Game Room Podcast. This has been episode 24. Please like and subscribe on your way out. Thank you to everyone hanging out with us in the chat. TJ saying Redfall's getting terrible reviews. Yeah, so has any more launched since we've been live? Because I saw a few that broke embargo and they got taken down. Very intrigued by it. We were saying we're going to have to see what it looks like. But thank you to everyone hanging out with us. TJ, the Coog, the Doge, Coach Nick, Producer Jeff, thank you very much for your work on the 1s and 2s. Follow us in our social medias and the description below. If you like pro wrestling, we will be here on Wednesday and Friday this week because, Jeff, I am available for the Rampage review this week. I know. It's on at 5:30 again, though, so we're going to be going live later than 5:30. Yes. But, yeah, if you like pro wrestling, we talk about AEW, Dynamite, and Rampage, and pay-per-views and all that good stuff on our Wednesday and Friday shows. So please stick around for that. But until next time, we will see you guys next week. So excited for Zelda.
Yeah.